Why, you may ask yourself, is a government which is devoted to the notion that the wealth of the nation can best be created by letting private enterprise get on with its job? Why is it spending government time and money on a white paper which tells industry what it ought to be doing? The answer, of course, is that governments in every country of every political persuasion endeavor to create a climate in which they believe their industries and their commercial institutions might best flourish. Our government has a dual interest in this white paper. It wants to encourage British industry to be successful in the increasingly competitive international environment. Being itself the country's largest purchaser through PSA, the NHS and publicly owned industries, it wants to get the very best value for its money. In the good old palmy days, the words "made in Britain" were a symbol of quality, and our main market was the Empire, later the Commonwealth. Now we're competing with the new manufacturing nations for our old empire markets, and sadly, there and elsewhere in the world, made in Britain is no longer enough. Success in world markets depends upon the supplier's ability to satisfy customers' needs, satisfy them on price, and satisfy them on quality and performance. And by quality, the customer means fitness of a product to meet his expectations. Expectation of good design, reliability, ease of maintenance, safety, energy consumption, and more throughout the life of the product. And four men who are concerned with making it happen are with me in the studio. Spike Spickenell, the Director General of the British Standards Institution. Tom Cruddas, the Director of the Pressure Vessels Quality Assurance Board. John Whiteley, the Deputy Chairman of the UK Certification Authority for Reinforcing Steel. And Brian Hildrew, the Managing Director of Lloyd's Register. Well, first of all, can we start with you, Spike? Spike, just how many BSI standards are there?
There are 9,000 standards in our catalogue, which make life safer and easier for all of us every day. Typical examples, of course, are the kite mark, where the kite mark products such as your safety belt in cars, which save lives regularly, the safety glass, the petrol, all the electrical safety in the home.
Now, you have a different kind of standard, which is called Bs5750. Can you tell me about that and what the concept is?
Yes, most of the standards I referred to already are, of course, codes of practice or product standards. But 5750 is a quality system standard, which is based on two simple concepts. Firstly, it is impertinent to tell a manufacturer how to organize his business. Secondly, if the manufacturer has satisfied customers, he's remaining in profit, he has very little scrap or reject in his factory, then he has a good quality system, and he can come forward for certification with confidence.
Supposing I'm a manufacturer who hasn't got 5750, how would you sell it to me?
I would say to you that you should collect your quality costs first of all, and if you find that there's something, as they are in many companies, in the ratio of 20% of turnover, I would decide to have a look at 5750 with the aim of reducing my lack of quality costs down to 2% of turnover.
So you're really saying, I suppose, that if a manufacturer has 5750, one, he's going to make money, and two, he's going to satisfy his customer.
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
What about the wider applications of 5750? I mean, I'm talking about worldwide here. Let's start with the EEC. What chance has it got of being accepted there?
Oh, I'm quite certain that on the world basis, that a very similar standard will emerge within 18 months because the committees are already working on quality system standards which 90 countries will accept based on the 5750 concept.
And you don't think that the 5750 concept will be tinkered with by all these various authorities sitting around the world, perhaps coming up with nationalistic reasons for not actually wanting it?
Well, there is always a danger in that, but this standard actually has got to the draft international stage of voting, so I think it's passed the hurdles.
And you think that's therefore a pretty compelling argument for manufacturers to take it on, even if they haven't already?
I think it is, but I would hope they would take it on because it makes economical common sense. When I talk about quality assurance, I'm talking about quality with economy.
Spike, thank you very much indeed. So Bs5750 provides a quality assurance system by which managers can run their businesses to a recognized standard and be approved by a certification authority. The company receives a regular audit. The product is independently tested and the results are fed back to the company. Quality is designed into the product, which means that the product is more competitive. It also eliminates multiple testing by different industrial customers. After all, if the rest of the world are taking an interest in Bs5750, then industry had better take note of it too. Tom, how and why did your organization come into being? After all, the title Pressure Vessels Quality Assurance Board sounds pretty rarefied.
It came into being because the users and manufacturers of pressurized plant wanted more formal and centralized arrangements introduced for the certification of the plant and also for the certification of the manufacturers. On the one hand, manufacturers wanted to be in a more comparable position with the overseas competitors. On the other hand, users wanted a firm base of United Kingdom manufacturers who were capable of manufacturing consistently to nominated technical standards. If a manufacturer is assessed by the Pressure Vessel Quality Assurance Board and he gets our certificate of authorization, it is evidence that both his capability in respect of designing and manufacturing to the standard and also of controlling all those activities is satisfactory, that it's in conformity with Bs5750. Also, during manufacture, the vessel is subjected to inspection by an independent inspecting authority who's also responsible for undertaking surveillance of the manufacturer to make sure that the quality system we have approved is sustained effectively.
So the customer, in fact, knows exactly what he's getting?
Oh, yes. At the end of the manufacturing cycle, the vessel gets a certificate of conformity, which is signed by the manufacturer and also affirmed by the authorized inspection body.
And the manufacturer becomes more competitive in the process with his overseas competitors, does he?
Oh, yes, and particularly overseas buyers are looking to place orders with manufacturers in this country who have got an effective quality assurance system.
How was the certification authority actually set up?
In the first instance, the industry came to the Institution of Mechanical Engineers and asked them if they would set it up. And it came into operation in 1981, and already it's demonstrating that it can reduce quality-related costs quite significantly. Some 50 vessels have or are being made under the scheme, so we're getting evidence of that now.
Tom, thank you very much indeed. Well, it's clear that if you've got a quality assurance system in place in any sector of industry, the next step is to achieve certification. But forgive the pun, it appears to need a good head of steam from the industry, some cash on the table, and a lot of dedicated hard work. The benefits will be a reduction of quality-related costs, greater competitiveness, greater client and customer confidence, and greater sales potential. John, unlike other people in this program, you are a manufacturer, and as I understand it, the pressure for standards in your industry actually came from within the industry and wasn't imposed from outside in any way.
That's quite right, yes.
What actually happened?
The reason why the industry promoted the idea of a certification authority, I think, was motivated basically for two reasons, although there were other subsidiary reasons as well. I think, firstly, we wanted to provide added assurance to the user that he could buy a consistent quality product on a regular basis if he came along to a certified supplier. I think from a manufacturer's point of view, we also felt that this would have advantages for us in that it would ensure that we had fair competition. In our industry, we have a situation of self-certification which really relies on the integrity of the manufacturer and supplier. And in a totally free market situation where there is a lot of pressure on cost, then it does open the way for abuse of the less than scrupulous.
But when you said helps competition, I don't quite understand that. Are you saying that because of your certification, when you get a product or a piece of steel or whatever it is like, you can compare that with another piece of steel and say, yes, because they've both been certified, they are both of the same quality and therefore equally competitive?
Well, I think that if one leaves the competitive issue out of it for a minute, what we want to ensure is that there is available to the UK consumer of the construction product we sell a product of consistent quality, consistently complying with the British standards against which we do sell. Now, having a certification authority which regularly goes along and inspects the manufacturers, vets his quality systems, tests his products on a regular basis, we feel that we can ensure that the products that are being sold by Company A and Company B can be of a similar standard. If one doesn't have this sort of situation, as I said, the situation is open to abuse.
Who insists on quality assurance in your business? Does the construction industry, for example?
The construction industry is developing an awareness for quality assurance, but I think it's come along in this area somewhat later than others. We are now in a situation on a number of construction contracts where organisations like the PSA, the Central Electricity Generating Board, British Nuclear Fuels are requiring quality assurance. They have their own certification systems at the moment, quality assurance systems. We have a situation where when the scheme that we have been putting in is operating effectively, they will remove their requirements and will recognise that a CARES approval satisfies their own quality assurance requirements and therefore removes the problems of multiple assessments, which I think was something that Tom Credis referred to previously.
What about the reciprocity between British steel industry here, for example, and the European steel industry?
Well, that is another advantage from a manufacturing point of view. At the moment in the UK we have what one can only describe as an open market. There are no real rules or regulations which importers selling into the UK have to comply with, other than to say that they satisfy the British standard. Insofar as we wanting to sell into Europe and in a number of other countries in the world, we do have a situation where they have certification systems which can be very expensive for a manufacturer to actually get a certificate of approval, and it can be a disincentive unless he has specific intention of getting into that market. With a situation where we have a national certification authority of our type, then we are in a position from a national point of view to negotiate on a reciprocity basis and hopefully get to a situation where an approval for a UK manufacturer under our certification system will automatically give us approval to sell steel into Germany, for example, under their certification system without any further tests, any further involvement, no further cost.
What has quality assurance done for your company?
Well, I think it's probably fair to say now that the British steel industry produces as good a product that is available certainly within Europe and probably anywhere else, and at a cost that is probably certainly amongst the best in Europe. So the overall application of the quality approach within the industry has significantly improved the financial performance of the companies. And my own personal company, which is part of the private sector, by very religious adherence to this philosophy over the last 3 or 4 years, has turned a substantial loss situation into a reasonable profit.
John Whiteley, thank you very much. We can see now why there's a need to get assurance written into contracts, because, quite simply, it has these advantages. Buyers are assured of quality. They have only to worry about price and quantity. It means fair competition for home manufacturers vis-à-vis imports. It gives the designer and the contractor confidence in the integrity of raw materials and product quality. So it's an essential step towards making exporting easier and more profitable. And one other thing, if you're thinking of trading overseas, with Germany, for example, it opens the way for reciprocal approval arrangements. This means that product assessment could be undertaken in the UK, and that should save a lot of time and money. Brown Hildrew, I thought Lloyd's was really all about ships.
Well, for many years it was, of course, for past 230 years, in fact, but subsequently it's moved into the world of engineering and into the industrial scene.
Now, your operations are conducted in something like 100 countries, and many of those, of course, are competitors. Do you think that in the field of quality assurance that they are ahead of us, or roughly equal? Where do they stand?
Well, some are ahead of us, of course. Certainly the high-tech end of industrial countries are, the Japans, the America. Korea is coming up very, very fast, and determined to emulate Japan, and if possible to be greater than Japan in terms of the products it produces and the quality of them, so that it has accepted this challenge.
Do you think that British industry as a whole is becoming more critical in its approach to quality assurance?
Very, very slowly. Very, very slowly indeed, compared with our competitors worldwide. And I think this is a very worrying thing for the country. And again, I think in consequence, the government is well advised to embark on the project which it now has to try and stimulate industry to be conscious of the need for a quality product if it's going to export. And this country has to export to survive.
Why is British industry being slow on the uptake?
I think we don't like change in this country. In Japan, and now I find in Korea, the workforce will change virtually overnight to any new projected line and development to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, they will change back. But they will try things, whereas there's a great resistance in this country to change.
We've talked a good deal in this program about reciprocity and reciprocal approval between countries. Now, do you think that that's a pipe dream at this stage?
Well, I think it's going to be extremely difficult, and certainly in the areas that I work in, because the product is so large and costly, millions of pounds often involved, that the customer, who is the man who pays, will of necessity insist on having an independent check that he is going to get value for his money.
In other words, that he won't be content to let some independent authority do it for him. He'll want to go along and personally see to it.
I'm afraid that is so. This is one of the problems, of course, that Admiral Cruddas touched on, and it's one of the difficulties that exists. With small items of manufacture, of course, it is possible to run off on a mass-produced basis and have a quality standard and a control on this. But when you get round to the one-off, very expensive units, which essentially the sort of thing that we get involved in, then it is quite different.
Brian Hildrew, thank you very much indeed. Lloyd's Register has been promoting standards and quality for a couple of 100 years, so it can afford to take an overview. The message I get from Brian Hildrew is that quality assurance and the acceptance of standards are being increasingly adopted by industries worldwide as a means by which quality products can be made economically to the benefit of the manufacturer and the customer. That in the world marketplace, quality assurance is a sales factor, and that certification will help British industry to establish this quality reputation in that marketplace. Gentlemen, I wanted to take up with you something that Brian Hildrew has just been saying about reciprocity of approval between countries, about which he was rather pessimistic. Now, Spike, do you share his view, or are you much more optimistic, more bullish?
I'm certainly more bullish because I'm dealing in different industries. For example, the low voltage directive from the common market means that electrical goods must move freely between markets. They can only be stopped on the grounds of safety. Therefore, we've had to make reciprocal agreements between the countries of the common market to ensure that the goods are safe.
But are these very large electrical goods?
No, these are domestic appliances.
Well, I think he's talking about something a bit bigger, aren't you, Brian?
Yes, the large pressure plant, and large industrial plant, large turbo generators and so forth. As I said, the customer pays the money, and the customer is the client, and the manufacturer is the supplier. So if the customer wants a particular form of inspection, or if the customer wants additional inspection, then he has the right to demand it and get it.
In other words, he can call the shots.
That's right.
John Whiteley, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that in this context, it depends on the type of product that you're talking about.
Yes.
Now, Brian is talking about a major fabrication where it has got to have been designed from the start and it's not manufactured to a standard. In my particular product area, we sell the products to British standards. In Germany, they sell a similar product to a German standard, and in France and so on. And in that type of situation, there is a far better chance of having a reciprocal recognition of an approval of a German manufacturer in Germany with a British manufacturer in Britain.
Brian,
With a better chance.
Yes, yes.
But I think all of you will agree there's still quite a way to go.
There's still a way to go, but I still believe that in the common market eventually, goods will have to move freely. The standards, at the moment, we have 6,700 international projects in hand in BSI to try and harmonize standards. And the standards in Germany and France, Italy and so on will be the same as those in Britain. And the certification schemes will have to be rationalized and accepted. In Brussels, CEN being the European standards body, there is a sensor mark. The mark has already been registered, and I do see the day coming, possibly not in the next 5 years, that when there will be common marks, at least in Europe.
Gentlemen, thank you all very much indeed. Well, there are still a couple of nuggets left in here. The government believes so strongly that industry, particularly exporting industry, would benefit if more certification schemes were available, that it's put money where its mouth is. It's put aside around £3 million to encourage the development of certification schemes. And all the details are in this booklet published by the DTI. It's called Financial Assistance for the Development of Certification Schemes. And for a government publication, it couldn't be easier to read. It's available from the Standards and Quality Policy Unit of the DTI. It's only 9 pages of text, and as you can get up to £1 for £1 for launching a scheme, it's potential gold, even for the slow reader. The government also believes that the status of certification schemes, particularly in the overseas markets, will be much enhanced by being accredited, and a National Accreditation Council has been set up for this purpose. An added benefit will be that government departments will make the widest possible use of accredited independent third-party certification schemes for both regulatory and public purchasing purposes. And remember, who's the biggest single purchaser in the UK? The markets of the world are buyers' markets, and the signs are that it's going to stay that way. Customers need to be satisfied on price and quality, ownership of a product, its reliability, maintenance, its continuing fitness for purpose is an additional cost to the customer, which is directly related to its quality of design and its manufacture, its total life cost, in other words. Quality assurance is now a prerequisite for selling in world markets, and third-party certification can provide the means by which maximum advantage can be gained by British firms in both domestic and export sales. You'll find a lot more information about quality assurance in this BSI handbook. If it's universally accepted, made in Britain will again achieve its original meaning in the world markets.